I've spent my life surrounded by extravagance. Endless suffocating extravagance. Marble floors that echo in silence. Sprawling gardens, meticulously pruned chandeliers, casting light into corners where no one ever sits. Wealth isn't glamorous when it's all you've ever known. It's just a gilded cage. My father prides himself on maintaining appearances. After my mother's death, he funneled his grief into control, managing our household, managing me. I was the daughter who wore pearls and practiced piano, the perfect photograph in his meticulously curated life. But perfection isn't who I am. I resented him, blamed him, mocked him for a life I had no part in choosing. I wore my rebellion like armor, short skirts, sharp words. The occasional party that made headlines for the wrong reasons. If my mother had been the warm sun in his orbit, I was the storm that disrupted it. His friends were no exception to my scorn. They paraded through our home like cogs in a machine of power and influence. They laughed too loud, drank too much, ogled me with fleeting glances. They thought I wouldn't notice. I ignored them all. Except for him. He was different, my father's oldest and closest friend. A man whose presence was quieter than the rest. He didn't flaunt his success or speak in exaggerated tones. He simply existed, commanding attention without asking for it. At first, I barely noticed him. He visited often, his voice a low hum in the background of my father's study. It wasn't until one evening, when I passed through the room and felt his gaze follow me, that something shifted. His eyes lingered not with the leering intent of the others, but with something deeper, more deliberate. It unnerved me, made me feel exposed in a way I wasn't used to. I ignored it, told myself it was nothing. But over time, his presence became harder to ignore. He was always there, a steady fixture in our home. His visits grew more frequent, his conversations with my father stretching late into the evenings. I'd pass by the study, pretending not to notice the way his gaze followed me. It became a game. I wore dresses that clung to my figure, walked slower past the open door. I told myself it was to make my father mad, to push the boundaries he so desperately tried to enforce. But the truth was harder to admit. I liked the way he looked at me. I'd catch his eyes across the dinner table, feel the weight of his presence when he passed by me in the hall. It wasn't overt, but it was enough to leave my pulse racing. He never said a word, never acted on the tension that seemed to crackle between us. But it was there, simmering just beneath the surface. It happened one evening late when the house was quiet. My father had gone to bed, and I was wandering the halls restless. I found him in the library, a glass of scotch in his hand, the warm glow of the fire casting shadows across his face. I paused in the doorway, unsure whether to leave or step inside. He looked up, his gaze meeting mine. And for a moment, neither of us moved. Then slowly he set the glass down and stood. I didn't speak, I couldn't. He crossed the room in a few measured steps, stopping just in front of me. His hand reached out, brushing a strand of hair from my face. The touch was light, almost hesitant, but it sent a shiver through me. I should have pulled away. I should have said something cutting, something that would remind him of the line we were about to cross. But I didn't. The next few weeks were a blur of stolen moments. A hand brushing mine in passing. A lingering glance when no one was watching. The tension between us grew unbearable, an electric charge that seemed to hum in the air. Whenever we were alone, each touch, each stolen glance left me wanting more. I hated myself for it. Hated the way he made me feel alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. But I couldn't stop. It was late one night when the dam finally broke. He'd stayed for dinner, his usual glass of scotch in hand, as my father excused himself for the night. I lingered, pretending to read in the sitting room as he rose to leave. When he walked past me, I reached out, my fingers brushing his arm. He stopped, turned, and for a moment the world seemed to hold its breath. He leaned down his hand on the armrest beside me, his face inches from mine. I could feel the heat of his breath, the weight of his gaze. And then slowly, deliberately, he kissed me. The kiss was soft at first, tentative as though giving me a chance to pull away. But when I didn't, it deepened, his hand sliding to the back of my neck, pulling me closer. I melted into him, my body pressing against his as his lips trailed down my neck. His hands were steady, deliberate, exploring every curve with a patience that made my skin burn. He lifted me, carried me to the couch, and laid me down, his weight pressing into me as his hands continued their slow, deliberate exploration. Every touch felt like a claim, every kiss like a promise. He moved with a confidence that left me breathless, his body fitting against mine as though we were made for this moment. When it was over, we lay in silence, the room bathed in the soft glow of the fire. His hand traced lazy circles on my skin, his presence grounding me in a way I hadn't expected. I should have felt guilty. I should have been thinking of my father, of the betrayal we just committed. But all I could think about was him, his touch, his warmth, the way he made me feel seen in a way no one else ever had. I knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The days that followed were a blur of stolen moments, secret touches and whispered promises. I told myself it was just a phase, just another act of rebellion. But deep down I knew the truth. This wasn't about my father anymore. This was about us. And I wasn't ready to let it go. Oh no.